If everybody would please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice to see everybody. Nice to have everybody back in person. To read into the record, we have Two Farms Incorporated, Conocelli Allenwood Road, LP, on an application for special exceptions and variances from Plymouth Township zoning ordinance number 342 as amended, Article 10, Section 1000K.1, and Article XVI, Sections 1601.c.1, 1601.c.3.a, 1601.c.4, and 1603.r. Do we have anyone representing the applicant?
Neil Stein representing the applicant. We have a plan that we will put on an easel for you. It's going to look strangely familiar because you saw the same plan a month or two ago, but there are a few distinct differences. You can put it over here, I think. All right. By way of introduction, this is Dane Glass from Bob Blue's office. We have Matt DiGiulio who can speak to operational issues if there are any questions, and there's a Tornetta family reunion going on, so there are plenty of them here too. Let me turn it the right way. Sorry. That's why Bob gets the big ones. This is essentially the same plan we saw a couple of months ago. I did point out for Royal Farms, convenience store in this location, 5,154 square feet, fueling positions in the front, access, a right-in only from Ridge, a right-in only at this point from Allenwood, and then a dual entrance exit further up the site. In addition, what was not on the last plan you saw was the addition of an access easement for the pump station. That was one of the comments we received from the township. That's been added to the plan. It's an emergency access with a Knox box or some form of gate in this location. In addition, as you recall, this property is to be subdivided into two lots. So a stub, if you will, has been provided in this location for the possible future development of lot number 2. The zoning relief falls into two general categories. The first is a special exception to allow the gasoline fueling facility, all the other uses, the convenience store is a permitted use. And then there's signage relief that's being requested as well. At the last meeting, we told you we would stay within the confines of a similar application that Wawa had filed and was approved by the zoning hearing board. So it's basically the same type of signage. There was a signage plan attached to the plans that we submitted, consisting of a monument sign, canopy and building identification signs, and at least one directional sign on the site. Other than that, it's essentially the same plan that you saw previously.
Okay. Anything else to add at this time?
Did I miss anything? I think that's it.
Okay. Lonnie?
Yeah, could you explain what the activities are between the side of the building and the hatched area that you have there? So this is, you have two-way traffic coming in there, right?
Right.
All right. So, like we talked about, this emergency access to the Chemical Road pump station is a very critical component of this plan for the township.
Mm-hmm.
What can be put in there to ensure that no one parks, like landscape trucks aren't parked there during a flood event? Or
To the rear of the building?
That whole
You're saying-
side, that from that entrance all the way back to the access.
Okay.
I guess what the concern is that we don't have,
You can get to
that
it.
we can get there. It's fine to
Right.
have the access from there to the pump station, but from where the access begins to Allenwood Road has to be clear during a storm event. And what can we do what kind of, can we put signage up? Can we mark that driveway? If you know anything about the Wawa on Ridge, you know, like what hangs out there can be very traffic congestive.
Sure. Yeah, so operationally, I guess in the event of an emergency and a flood, what we could do, and keep in mind, we've kept all of our parking and I'll say our operational component to the front of the store. So even though it's a front, rear, and loading store, majority of the traffic stays out front. This gore striped area would be like a layup area for landscape style trucks. But I would say to you, in the event of emergency, we can put it into the operational manual of the store, you know, whether it's coning at all, something to that nature. I don't know if signage would matter. I think it'd be better to have some type of temporary ability to basically eliminate anybody laying up here, and then this drive aisle would always maintain.
So that it would become a function of the store manager to go out there and shush away the people who would park there? I'm not quite sure how this is going to work.
So it would be a function of the store manager operational. Again, we're talking in temporary emergency type situation to basically go out and cone it off. So I mean, I would say to you, in the event of a flood, not a typical situation. And I think it wasn't
The floods
just
are
like,
becoming more typical as the
Understood.
weather changes. So, you know, I don't think it's just an isolated event
understood.
every 5 or 10 years.
So-
This happens like 3 or 4
Couple
times
times
a year
yes,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, Lonnie, to your point, I don't think you're concerned about that little outage area where something longer could park. You're
Yeah, I mean,
concerned about the primary
As long as
driveway.
it's limited to that, I mean,
Right.
that's fine. But if the spillover from there and,
Right.
you know, is,
So are you
So-
concerned about this drive aisle?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just the drive on.
The
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 drive-
drive aisle all the way back
So
to the
signage.
access ramp. So, you know, signage along the lines of, you will be towed. Do not park here. You don't have parking there anyway.
I was gonna say, no one can park there anyway.
Right.
We would
So-
allow it even during normal circumstances.
So you would be reinforcing that. It would be 24/7. You wouldn't have to take extraordinary measures. Your little outage bump there for extended vehicles is fine
Right.
because they're out of the way.
Correct.
Would that be sufficient,
yeah,
Lonnie?
yeah, mhm.
Not a problem.
The signage, you mean?
Signage and paint.
Yeah, signs, and, you know, if they know that EB is going to come and tow them, they're less likely to park there.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, again, this is our main ingress, egress for the store.
Right.
So, we would, operationally, we would never allow anybody to park.
Exactly,
in that.
exactly. And this way, it's consistent, it's 24/7.
Correct.
No extraordinary measures are needed,
Correct,
and you shouldn't have to do anything out of the norm.
correct. And keep in mind, security-wise, I mean, we have cameras on all ends of the site, so not only functionally at the store, but also corporate can view what's going on at the store at all times.
Sure.
That's all I had.
Yes, sir. Brittany?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. Vern?
No, I don't have any questions.
Monica?
Could you go over what the variance is for the signing in the front, the Ridge Pike side?
So, we need a special exception from the signage to allow an area over 135 square feet. The typical pylon sign that we have is 162 feet, and the township counts both sides of the sign as the area, so it would be 324 that we need relief for. 125 is allowed. And then we would need a variance when it's not attached to a building to exceed 20 feet or a pylon sign of 25 feet in height. So,
I think that's it.
I think that's what we're requesting.
Would it be possible to modify your sign to meet the current zoning?
We have it on the front and back, and so that would be extremely hard for it to meet the 125 square footage and still be visible for people driving down Ridge Pike or on Allen Road.
Do other gas stations in the area like exceed
The Wawa nearby received zoning relief for larger amount than we're requesting.
Close to 400 square feet.
Okay, that's all I have.
No questions? Tony?
I think I asked this before. Is this going to remain one parcel, or is it going to be subdivided?
Subdivided.
Lot 1, lot 2?
Subdivided.
Okay. That's all.
Okay. Great.
No questions.
I don't believe I have any questions at this time based on what we've seen. You have 3 ingress points and 1 egress point, and due to the traffic circulation, it seems as though it will be manageable. Obviously, it sounds like you're interested in having that second lot developed so that others could get out through those means as well. There really isn't anything else you can do with this parcel due to the traffic and due to the movements. So I think we're okay there. Dave, do you have anything?
Just to clarify, the access way back to the pump station will be on that vacant lot, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
It'll go through
Yes.
lot 1 and then
And
Lot 2.
And I'm just looking, I mean, when that second lot is ever developed, there's just like dead, like if you're going towards the pump station, there'll be like a dead area, unless that's just gonna be parking area. And it's just something to consider. I don't know if that's been thought out or anything like that. That's all.
Is there anyone in the audience opposed to the application? Is there anyone in the audience in favor of the application? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the waiver request for the signage.
For the variance for the signage and
And special exception.
Oh, and the special exception, sorry, for the gas.
and the special exception for the use?
Yes.
Just to differentiate. Thank you, sir.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, that's what I'm asking.
No, instead of precedent from Wawa, there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
Okay.
We're gonna make sure we get to that. I just wanted to.
This is already developed. Sully has a restriction.
Okay.
You keep talking about development. I think maybe it's temporary building.
No, that's the whole repair.
Yeah, that's why I looked at it 4 or 5 times, doubting myself for a minute. Yeah, look right here.
It's 26.
Unless they're talking about,
That's
Anything
too
over
low.
here to do?
Yeah, I think that's too low. This drops off dramatically.
Right.
This is 7 stories low. It used to be a bar.
my only
7
concern
stories.
is when it's too late now, it's coming in and out of here. It's
Well,
not gonna be.
this is all going to change. This is going to go away, this door handle.
Right, but you still have people coming this way.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you have to make a left-hand turn to go back out the ridge.
And not only that, you got
It's
it's like a hook there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We can share. We won't fight.
I haven't watched that from you guys.
Tell me to slacken is what you're telling me?
He just had surgery.
We'll go easy.
And I got Matt's email this afternoon regarding those letters.
I have copies of those too. If you
Okay.
want to grab a few, or?
I don't need them, I have, if you want to pass them out to the rest of the board.
Well, I don't know if I have enough. I have enough pictures, I don't know if I have enough letters. But we'll go through.
You can share. Yeah.
Right.
2 mil. So it looks like.
Thank you for the towel.
So he bought the whole thing for 250 and just sold the back half?
And 8 years or 10 years ago, yeah.
So he
No,
doubled-
I mean, no, the whole parcel.
Oh, he sold the whole parcel for, I was saying double his money, just on the back piece?
Yeah. But that, years, he bought the old North County Plaza. Like what, 38 years ago?
Oh, man, I'm doing something wrong.
Well, you have to have.
Money and then time, and then right timing.
And some brains too, you know, that never begrudge them. You always try.
Been in the office since 7.
This is on Butler Pike.
You would actually send it.
This is the land development for 2622 Butler Pike.
Yeah.
Good evening, my name is Ed Hughes, attorney representing the applicant. Mr. and Mrs. Powell, Dennis Powell, in the back of the room, they're the owners of the property. We were here a couple years ago, maybe 18 months ago, for a cluster overlay approval for the project where we laid out the property into 3 different sections. Conservation area, which is next to the Weatherall Park, 2.4 acres, be preserved as is in the pasture. And we have the existing improvement area where the Powell's house is, which is on 3.97 acres. That'll remain, that'll be lot 7. And we have 6 other lots proposed in the development area, which is 5.22 acres on this 11.6 acre property. So when we did the cluster overlay approval, we showed 6 lots, so this is exactly identical to what we showed at the time. Paul used in relation to me as an engineer for Kinley Horn to present the proposal. And Ryan Alzecki is the principal of the developer, Craft Custom. We're waiting for preliminary final recommendation of approval. Hopefully get the council next week for approval. We're doing this for a while. Got a series of review letters from all the consultants who are, and will comply with all the review letter comments at this point. The handout I passed out shows the 3 different areas of the property. One of the conditions of approval for the cluster overlay was to record a conservation easement before we negotiated with the township solicitor.
Good evening. The handout that I passed out is for the 3, same as the 3 boards that are up here. But just to kind of walk through the improvements that, of course, are in more detail than the previous conditional use plan. This is the overall site plan as Ed described. This is the conservation area up in the kind of upper right part of the plan view. The existing improvement area, existing house, wood area, and other pasture areas, and then of course the development area down along Butler Pike and abutting the turnpike. The next page you all have is just a little bit of a blow up on the development area itself, where you can see the units, the main access drive off of Butler Pike, what is essentially a shared driveway going back into this is actually lot 6 with a couple other lots. This is a emergency turnaround, essentially a hammerhead for emergency vehicle turnaround. The other 2 lots are accessed off the other side of the main private drive, and then these green areas here are stormwater management basins. So of course has public water. Sanitary sewer is conveyed to the pump station that's over here in the park. So working through the engineering details on that with the authority. And then of course we have a series of landscape reviews that we've gone through. I will say, a disclaimer, this doesn't necessarily depict the final landscaping. We've had a couple meetings and some on-site with your landscaping consultant. So we'll have a little bit more treatment up in this area here where, if any of you have seen the site, some of that in the front there is a little raggy, or however you want to say that professionally. So there'll be a little bit more there in the front, but we're working that out with the landscaping consultant. So as Ed described, we've gone through a few rounds of reviews. We have the outstanding review letters that we've released responses to as we'll comply at this point. We also have some waiver requests that, Dave, you want me to go through the waiver requests, the waiver list?
Yeah, that's fine.
Before you get to that, Paul, so Lot 7 is the Powell property, it's going to remain owned by them, and that spills over into the development area. Our basin, one of our basins is on that property.
That's correct.
It's basically a pasture, they have horses and things that cross the creek. And the access to the Powell house is across a small bridge across the creek. That's going to remain as is.
That's correct. That's an extension of the private drive. You can see it sort of narrows into the existing drive.
We've negotiated an easement where they can use that property back and forth.
Right.
And we talked to the township administration that the Powells will be able to, even though this is a community association, to take their trash and debris out to Butler Pike for pickup by the township for so long as they own the property. That was something we talked to the township about.
As a homeowners association, but you're going to have township municipal services on that, or?
Just for the Powell house,
Oh, okay.
as something they asked for, and the township was willing to provide that for them. It's a large property, a lot of debris goes out there basically every week.
Well, then is the Powell property part of the association, or?
No.
No, okay, it's a separate
They have a
entity.
cross easement to use it, but they're not part of the association.
Got it.
And the association will maintain the basins. And we actually also have a easement to the back to get to the.
Right, for stormwater maintenance access.
Excellent.
And also for the PAL to get to this part of their property for maintenance.
So the waiver requests that we have are primarily based on the layout had been approved by the conditional use previously, wanting to keep it as light on new coverage, so that you can clearly see there are not sidewalks, so that's one of the waiver requests. We have curb that's only being shown at the radii, and that was something we talked to the township engineer and the staff about, so that it would be a little bit more durable for turning movements around those radii for emergency vehicles. So that each radius at the intersection here and at the hammerhead does have curb, but otherwise we're omitting curb. Also, we have section 501(1)G, which is prohibiting dead-end streets. Obviously, the conditional use plan allowed for the dead-end street. There's also a waiver for use of the hammerhead style turnaround in lieu of a full cul-de-sac, again, based on the previously approved layout. Waiver from 501(1)B2, which is minimum widths of rights of way and paving. This is essentially to allow for not widening the state highway, Butler Pike, which will of course remain as is. The aforementioned sidewalk waiver 503(1)A. Also 503(2)A is for concrete curbs. Again, it's a partial waiver as I described. 518(5A)(2)B is requirement that street trees be planted no closer than 1 foot outside the alternate right of way. Which we have some trees, it's a little difficult to kind of keep them within 1 foot of the right of way line, so we're asking for a waiver for that as well. 501(2)B(2)D, requirement that nothing shall be planted, placed, planted, or set or put within the area of an easement other than lawn or agricultural planting. We're requesting a waiver to allow for street trees to be planted within the residential right of way in order to meet stormwater management requirements. Finally, from section 518(5E)(1)B, which is a individual lot landscaping requirement for the district AA for five shade trees per lot. We're asking for a waiver to not need 5 trees necessarily on each lot, but to provide a landscape plan satisfactory to the landscape consultant for the township.
I would point out that we had 2 variances granted by the zoning board. One was to allow outbuildings to be located in a cluster overlay. I think that provision was really designed when the overlay was townhouses. So when there's single-family detached homes, something like that, a shed or maybe a swimming pool, something like that. So we got a variance to allow that. And also, it requires a transition or vegetative area around the entire site. We got a variance to not require the transition or vegetative area around the entire 11-acre site. That was done about a year ago, right after we had the conditional use approved. Well, cluster approved, technically conditional use.
Did you mention you're requesting a waiver from 518.5A to B? I believe that's the one where,
518.5A2B, yeah, that's the one about the trees and proximity to the right of way.
I don't think we need that one anymore.
Oh, no, okay. That's,
Yeah, according to, I spoke to Kim Flanders, our landscape consultant, that one is not needed anymore. So it's
518.5A2B, right?
correct. About the 2 street trees or something.
Yeah.
Because I think those were moved outside the right of way on the last set of plans, if I'm not mistaken, so the waiver's not needed.
All right, so that's number 5 on the.
That was part of the conversation
waiver
with John.
request letter. Yeah, with John. Yeah.
The towns were motivated when they started this project to preserve the areas around the Weatherville Park. Because they could have otherwise lotted it out in 7 lots and have a development with no conservation area or open space. They chose to go in this direction. How big are the lots, basically? About 30,000?
They're all a little bit different, Ed. Thanks for asking.
Good question.
I probably go by memory, but
That's bigger than that.
Did make equal lots, right?
None of them, well, 2 are equal. 2 twos are equal. 2 twos are different.
Sounds good. I've been an engineer.
Okay, lot sizes.
There's like 15 to 22 range.
Oh, here.
Yeah, bigger than that.
Yep, so we've got lot 1, 21,695 square feet, lot 2, 17,729, lot 3, 14,175, lot 4, 15,562, lot 5, 14,495, and lot 6, 20,186. Or otherwise stated, a third of an acre to half an acre.
Do you have anything else to present at this time? Lonnie?
With regard to the waiver about the curb, we have worked that out, and we think that's the best situation for that.
Okay.
And then the other thing that, 2 more things. There's an access for maintenance from lot 6, I think it is?
Yeah, 6.
To the basin, and normally that should be paved, but we're going to go with like a geogrid fabric to make it more environmentally sensitive, okay? So that a landscaper can get his materials back there to maintain the stormwater management facility. And lastly, I think we're still in discussion about certain particular items about the stormwater management report, and we'll get that resolved shortly. But we've had many meetings and many discussions, planned talks about this plan, so
we'll still need.
we're pretty much done.
Conservation District approval following that township approval.
Absolutely.
I may have missed some, but what was the curbing decision?
There's a waiver request
Right.
for not continuous straight concrete curb, and we agree with that request in this particular instance, as it's shown on the plan.
Not continuous, but have curbing.
It's at the radius.
Specific locations.
So it's kind of around each radius, so that like if a truck goes across, it will
Got that.
unravel the paving. So it's here, here, and then here and here.
But not throughout the whole.
Right.
Okay. And why not throughout the whole?
That's might be a
I'll
question
jump in.
for you, Rob.
And the
It's
reason
like
I
an
asked,
Aesthetic thing.
so I'm trying to, and maybe it's not complete curbing, but I'm trying to look at the other two developments across the street who have probably not, that's why I was trying to ask about the continuous. It doesn't look like typical curbing, but they have typical curbing in certain sections, and then looks like Belgian block curbing in others around the whole neighborhood.
So that curbing would be, either or would be classified as curbing. During the original meetings with the township and township engineer and the township in general, the general consensus or idea was to try to maintain as much of a pasture-like setting as we could, considering the PAL owns a horse farm, and two of the areas that were, visual of our pastures. We were not trying to have something that was considered comparable to the pay-owned development across the street, higher density, the sidewalks, the full curbing and everything through. We wanted to maintain something that was a little bit more conducive to this particular project.
That probably has more impervious surface also across the street. They have to manage that water.
Significantly more.
Okay.
Anything else, Lonnie?
Nope.
Thank you, sir. Brittany?
Just a few questions.
Sure.
There is no street parking, it's all driveway or on the, I
There
saw
are, if you look at the plan, there's a couple little pockets.
okay, that's for street parking?
That's kind of, we tried to, in a meeting with the township staff, wanted to look for having some kind of gas parking in the community.
Okay, and all of the streets, driveways will be maintained by HOA?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, and street lighting
Yes.
as well? How about the curbing that you're,
Everything
Everything.
outside of the right of way of Butler Pike will be maintained by
By
the
the
HOA.
HOA.
Communal landscaping, lighting,
okay,
existing, the curbing that we'll be adding, all paving, is that.
okay. And then the trees, so you're not meeting the minimum requirement, correct? You're 3?
It was five per lot.
Okay, 3. Is there any plans for maintaining them before they fully bloom with the deer? Any type of netting or?
So we have to maintain the trees for an 18-month period of time.
Yeah.
With health, but we will take into consideration through the landscape
Okay.
architect, preventative measures for high deer
Once it
areas.
goes past that 18 months?
And then we are going to be complying overall with, generally speaking, the landscape requirement. So where we cannot be providing enough trees per lot, we're going to be providing shrubs in lieu or foundation plantings of that nature.
Okay.
One quick clarification about ownership and maintenance. The one facility that we're being asked to dedicate is the sanitary sewer,
Yeah.
but nothing on the surface.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brennan?
I don't have any questions right now.
Thank you, sir. Monica? I think you know what I'm going to ask.
Maybe question for you.
Curse, the soils,
The
the sinkholes?
the stormwater basins.
Yes.
It wasn't clear from the engineering drawings that we had access to in one of the emails, whether they were detention or infiltration and where the piping was going. Like, there were pipes going to the basins?
Yeah.
But,
They're inflow pipes that take the water from the development in the basin.
so they're infiltrating?
Yes.
And that's going to be okay with the powers that be?
Yeah.
Well, we're in with the conservation district. We made that submission of the conservation district, so we're going to find out what the powers that be think.
Well, the township has a karst geology ordinance.
Mhm.
that-
Yeah.
This,
Well,
go ahead.
There's a lot of that in the area, so the geotechnical analysis has to go a little bit below and look for any of those limiting features. So we've got essentially a clean bill of health and feasibility for infiltration on the site. So that's how we're proceeding.
Where is that report? Have you made that?
I don't have it here.
Can you supply that electronically?
Yeah.
Because we just had 3 of them open up at the park.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm concerned because the site happens to be at the juncture of 3 different geologic formations, one of which is susceptible to sinkholes. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that generally in the area, so we will surely take that into consideration as we're finalizing design. I mean, it's not uncommon generally in this area to have facilities that are lined, but there is still a push when infiltration appears to be feasible to use infiltration instead of lining, so it's a little bit of a dance we do sometimes with the conservation.
Yeah, it's part of the NPDES requirements is that they have to infiltrate when possible. So if they do a study and the soils show that they can, then that's the direction that they proceed.
And a large portion of that, the freshwater credits and everything for that retention.
So it is, it is a dance.
Yes.
Anything else, Mike?
nope, that's it for me, thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Mike?
No questions.
Tony?
No.
I'm going to stick on the same one with the sidewalks. Nothing with frontage on the Butler Pike or anything with sidewalks. Is that all just for aesthetic purposes?
I guess it's for aesthetic purposes. I mean, we haven't talked much about where those, where we're taking sidewalks to and
I mean,
from,
my
connecting to existing.
the strange concern, but looking at the developments across the street with sidewalks, concerned about people crossing the street, and for one reason only, which is not a big reason, but there is a doggy daycare right across the street, and if people are walking their pets or dogs, some safety provision for walking and crossing would be needed.
So what we did discuss as a potential area, if we were concerned about any type of walkability, was doing a access path across Lot 2 and Lot 1 directly in front of the driveway.
Can you show, I'm making sure I understand lot 1 and 2, so
These two here.
okay.
So outside of the ultimate right-of-way, doing an access path directly here, connecting to this area here, concerning if neighbors wanted to get to this point and or up to Weather Oak Bar.
Right.
There's the driveway's here,
Yep.
so it'll be between the driveway and the right-of-way. People have not necessarily concrete, but some kind of walking path that people can be down at the park.
Yeah, I'm more concerned of people not walking on Butler Pike, trying to cross the street. So if there's a walk path or something that they can get to those two intersections and be able to cross with some safety, then
And that was brought up, by Tim and Lonnie as a consideration from getting to our main entrance to the Weatherall side.
Right.
They were less concerned about going down the opposite side towards Turnpike because it doesn't connect to anything, right?
Hit the bridge there.
yeah, I'm more concerned about somebody going Weatherall or trying to cross the street there.
Across here.
Yes. So if they're walking on, I mean, I'm understanding you're not going to put a crosswalk in, but my concern was walking across the street to get to that intersection and cross, and not walking on Butler Pike that's a single lane road.
So we were definitely willing to put in, that walking path across those two lots, directly kind of following that driveway. That gets them up to that access point, and then,
So Ryan, you're saying from here to the
Yeah.
Park Drive?
Okay.
We extended it close on the Weatherall Park land too, the council I'm sure would agree to, and create an easement for the public to use that. I guess for the public, or just for residents.
I would think that would only be for our residents because it's, a private community. So it's, the thought was if the residents, to your point, of that community wanted to get to Weatherall Park.
Right, they want to walk to the
so
park
they
or
wouldn't
across
go
the
to park,
street.
They didn't have to get.
They're not on Butler
To the
Pike.
Butler, they could be in front of it.
Right.
So I would think we would maintain that was for the community since we're outside the area.
I would just say that we would want to make sure that that was a straight run that terminated here and didn't promote pedestrian crossing of the state highway. We don't want it to make it as if we're inviting.
Correct.
If anything, you would want it to curve towards the
Towards
park.
Weatherall.
Or just
towards Weatherall.
Yeah, either come this way or just come to the Park Drive and terminate, but not create an appearance that we're saying it's safe to cross Butler Pike right here.
Correct, yes. All right.
What kind of material would you want that to be?
It could just be an asphalt path, I think. It doesn't have to be a concrete sidewalk.
There's a question on needs maintenance and deteriorate.
So that would be part of the HOA.
Yeah, but even then,
I mean, I would think either an asphalt pad would be fine. I mean, that's typically what you see in walking trails around other communities.
Yep.
And or some type of geotex,
in Lower Gwinnett had
hard fabric.
crushed stone and turn them on to macadam after
Yeah.
experience showed it didn't.
Yeah, it'd have to be an all-weather surface.
That's it.
All right. Lonnie, the pumping station, it'll be able to handle?
Actually, it goes to White Marsh, so I can't comment on that.
Yeah, we did speak with them when they began this conversation.
Okay. All of the properties seem to face internal. I don't believe anything faces Butler Pike.
Nothing at this time faces the Butler Pike.
And there won't be any additional properties built on this lot?
No.
Okay. So that
The
will,
site max out at 7 unit density.
yeah, because that'll keep everything below the 12 for a cul-de-sac that we're concerned with.
We had spoke at the original meeting when we were wanting to do the cluster that we would try to maintain that over the 6 lots and then the balance.
That's documented in the conditional use approval, right?
Yes.
The Hammerhead turnaround, that's approved by the fire marshal?
As far as I'm concerned, yes. They've been going back and forth.
We do have
several.
We have several review letters.
Turning
The
templates and whatnot, and
turning template wasn't a concern. It was, strength of pavement for an 80,000-pound truck.
Yeah.
There was questions about framing materials and such we were using in case of sprinkler.
These were built. This is before the bend.
Just one thing to note, because obviously council has looked at this as well, and based on the review letters, people are in agreement with no sidewalks and no curbing due to the nature of this area and the fact that it's in a conservancy, the fact that it's Harriet Weatherhill Park, which is unique for the township. Dave, is it possible to get both of those items cleaned up for both zoning and township? So that, it's limited, this behavior is limited to the conservancy district, since that seems to be what's driving the lack of curb and the lack of sidewalk.
I mean, are you talking about in this area in
Yes.
general?
Yes. Because I'm concerned with someone building 7 properties on a different cul-de-sac and saying, we don't want curbs.
Right.
And we're going to do minimal
Yeah.
curbs and no sidewalks.
I mean, it's a saldo requirement when they come in for
Right.
land development.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Agreed.
this is a unique situation.
Right. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
we're emphasizing that appropriately.
Correct.
And preventing it from future.
Correct.
As far as I know, this is maybe the third cluster overlay project.
I believe so.
Belvoir Woods. and
Belvoir Woods, I'm trying to think of the other one.
Plymouth Meadows.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
They were townhouse, well,
Right.
Belvoir Woods were quads,
Correct.
Plymouth Meadows were townhouses.
Because we did something similar for the wall along with Friends. It's unique, it's historic, it's not antique, it was redone in 1982, so all of that went out the window. But it is unique to that property, and due to the historic nature of the property, it was permitted. So I just want to make sure we're being consistent and we're being appropriate, and I think for this use in this location, it is.
Correct.
But I also want to make sure we do not have creep, and obviously Saldo prevents that to some extent.
Correct.
But I want to make sure that we're dotting i's and crossing t's, and if council would be so kind as to make this formal, we can prevent.
Correct. I completely understand.
Thank you. So I believe the only addition we had at this time was the walkway. Was anything else to be added to what we were looking at? Okay, Dave,
Not
do
that I'm aware
you,
of.
do you have anything in addition?
No, they don't want to hear from my office anymore. We've been back and forth.
To be fair, I love hearing from you, Dave.
Oh, I'm sure. Or anyone from my office at this point, I'm sure.
We'd like to hear that we're on the agenda.
Well, yeah. I did everything I could, trust me.
All good, all good. Is there anyone in the audience opposed to the application? If you could state your name and address, sir, and
Sure. Todd Liebel, 2538 Cove Point Hill Road. I actually live right up the road, underneath the turnpike right there.
Your name is, I'm sorry.
Todd Liebel,
Legal.
Liebel, Cove Point to Bayonne, right here. So I'm in this neighborhood.
And your address was?
2538 Cove Point Hill Road.
what,
Am I
what,
allowed to ask questions?
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
oppose? Yeah.
So I would like to understand, so it doesn't sound like you, sinkhole, that's still a possibility, is that correct? You can't rule that out in the future?
So, generally speaking, in a lot of areas of Plymouth Meeting, King of Prussia, Lower Merion, Radnor, and all of those surrounding areas due to the soils,
Yeah.
sometimes sinkholes do open, during construction or post-construction. Building in a lot of sinkhole areas, I have not personally experienced that, but it is absolutely, a possibility.
Because we've had 3 sinkholes, I think,
Yeah,
in the
it
last
could
couple of
be,
years,
again,
which
it-
has extended a lot of construction,
Yeah.
has shut down roads, and
Sure.
has increased, traffic.
Sure. There's not, if this was a one-house development, he was adding one house here, the same question would apply.
Absolutely.
The rediverting of water and making some adjustments. But again, based on the soils that are here and that we are able to percolate in those basins, I mean, we are meeting the MBDS requirement and conservation.
Is that a yes or no? You can't guarantee that, can you?
No.
No, so that could happen. Okay, thank you. And is there any consideration about the traffic? Like I was mentioning, this is a 2-lane road, and they're building in Park. They've had, 200 units. They're adding 10 more units now, building. Now we're adding 7 more. That's at least 14 cars. What are we doing about the traffic?
So they typically factor in 1.5 trips a day per residence.
Okay.
So 1.5 trips out, 1.5 trips in. Having done traffic studies on much larger developments, I would feel confident saying if I brought in a traffic engineer or did a traffic report, what he would tell you is that this is insignificant to any type of traffic that would be added to the roadway.
Does he live here? Is he riding this?
I mean, it's Heinrich and Associates. He's typically, accepted as the traffic engineer for this particular area. Conshohocken, Heinrich.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Conshohocken, Plymouth Meeting, Upper Merion handles all the major, commercial centers.
And they've green-lighted that from a traffic, when you said insignificant?
A development of like this size would be considered an insignificant amount of traffic. You're talking 3 trips a day per house, during peak hours. That's not something that would be considered a significant amount of traffic being added to a roadway.
But
If this was a development of the street,
I think
I'd say,
most traffic engineers would tell you that this development would not change the level of service of the road. I think that's the term that you're looking for. So adding this development would not lower the service of the road from whatever it is now to a lower classification.
Thank you.
Anything else at this time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is anyone else opposed to the application? Anyone in favor of the application?
Bob Storty,
What's your address?
my address, 2607 Narcissa Road. The back of my property adjoins their property. I guess it's around 200 or 300 feet from the back of the property.
Thank you. Do we have a motion at this time?
Motion to approve the waivers as presented with the addition of the asphalt walkway.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed at this time? Thank you.
Also a recommendation of preliminary final approval in addition to the waivers.
With
Yeah, with the
zoning
Yes.
and council's
Yes, to
approval.
answer your question, Ed, yes.
And more importantly, as Monica pointed out, with all the appropriate investigation of karst as we move
The
forward.
township engineer, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at he's going to send me the soils report. We'll take a look at it. Monica, I'll send it to you and we can talk.
Sounds like a plan.
All right?
Excellent. Most appreciated.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next line.